So some people, this morning, we're doing this right here. That's tough. If you leave the leg to the outside, it's just flopping around, man. There's no control in this. So make sure that you hug the heel into your side, grab the leg, bring it up. Just pure control.
Scoop under the knee.
Yep, scoop under the knee, leg inside, you got it here.
You're good, you're good.
There's a couple techniques where we're gonna have the hip up, okay? This is the first one. All you're gonna do from here, come back into that trochanter right here, pin the tissue up, drop the hip down to stretch. Pin and stretch.
That feels good, Andrew?
Pin up, drop down. Okay? If you don't want to use a palm, you can use a forearm. Pin, stretch. Okay? You just want to make sure you're getting into that motion of shortening, pinning, stretching. Okay? Once you've done that, we're going to move to strip and glides. You want to think about 3 lines. Okay? From the greater trochanter, anterior, middle, posterior. Okay? You want to make sure that you're getting some good depth here. Now, table height might become an issue, right? You're used to working on a body prone and supine. When it's silent, it's a little higher up. So if you feel like you're super in your shoulders, right, an elbow is ideal. Some people just have longer arms. But if you can manage, fingertips are really good. Angle them in and just glide. It's not a lot of distance here, guys. Some people's pelvises are a little taller than others, but it's not going to be a whole lot of distance here. All right? Don't want to be at edge. You definitely want them to feel you. If you're doing a precision glide, bodywork glide, there needs to be no mistaking you are in the tissue in question. They need to know, yes, that person is working in a muscle right there, right? So nothing like this. That's not doing it. Okay? That's just like an effleurage with fingertips. You want to be in the body, in that tissue, working it. Okay?
Sorry.
So that's the middle line. I'm just going to do a single glide on each, but we'll do multiple passes.
This area here.
Yep. Yep, just the tips of the fingers. And again, if I don't want to use that, I could come in with an elbow. This is going to be the posterior line, and I'm just going to glide through that. I really do prefer superior glides.
Did you put a little
I do, just on my body, because I don't want to burn their skin. The fascia work I kept dry, but I just put a little bit, man, just to feel my fingers. That's it, nothing on his body. Just enough to get traction. I don't know if you've ever had someone like burn your skin, you know, like when you're a kid and they like twist your arm. We don't want to do that. That's not what we're trying to accomplish here, right? Like Rolfing is very dry work. Like you use nothing in that, but there's no glides in Rolfing. Rolfing is
Say that again.
Rolfing. Like if you ever get Rolfing, like my traditional training in Rolfing, you can use a little bit of water, but you don't use any lube. But there's no glides. Massagers gliding in massage. Okay. So if you're gonna glide, you need to put a little bit of something on. All right. So anterior, middle, posterior. Okay. We're gonna do some rounds of glides. Then we're gonna go right into compressions. Now in this position, we have great access to glute medius. So we're gonna go above that greater trochanter. We're gonna position our body over our pressure, and we're just gonna come straight down into the body and do some edge work. Okay. When we get edge, we stop, right? So I'm not using my elbow tip because this is a really sensitive area.
You're using this area here?
Yeah, that's more like the proximal shaft of the ulna, just kind of hanging out there. Yeah.
Not the bone, right? Not the bone.
So I'm on the
area.
so if you, it's still bone though, but it's the shaft, right? It's not on the tip.
Not this.
Yeah. Now if you get a person that needs a lot of pressure, you can use an elbow tip, but just know that for most people that's going to be too much.
Okay, that's
Case by case, right? That tool's available to you if needed, but don't start with that.
okay.
Okay? Then I can continue to progress through that. Now, eventually I'll get to minimus, but the thing about minimus, not only is it super deep, but it's kind of tucked a little bit deeper in. So best way to treat it is to, again, grab the lower extremity, bring your elbow above the greater trochanter. I'm going to abduct his hip while I scoop in and down, okay? That's gonna give me glute minimus. It's farther in there. This is gonna slacken medius and allow me to get direct contact. Now I am on an elbow tip here because I'm going for depth.
Okay.
But you saw how quick we got to edge. I'm not having to go very deep, okay? I'm keeping the leg tucked in. I'm not using my shoulder to lift his leg with. I'm using side bending of my spine. So I'm not living in my shoulders. I'm not like yanking the leg up, right? Just kind of hanging out right here. If I wanted more pressure, I would just lean more, which would drive my elbow in more, right? But we're at edge.
Like a car.
So bye, Kim. Yeah, so now that edge is released, I can just lean. So I kind of lift the leg up a little more, but I lean my elbow in more, which gives me more pressure.
Are you working medius or
Minimus. Medius was the same thing, but with the leg on the pillow that I just did. You don't have to lift it up. Okay.
But you need to lift it to minimus.
So I think you can get to minimus directly, but it takes time. That gets you there quicker because it's going to slacken that top layer by shortening it passively because I'm doing it for him. So it gives me a deeper contact immediately. So I think it's a quick way to get to it. And we'll talk tomorrow. Their referrals are very different. You're going to get a lot of people specifically with minimus referrals down the leg. So they call minimus pseudosciatica and mimic sciatic pain. And if you need to get to that muscle quickly, that's how I would do it. If you have the time, you can sit there and slowly edge your way in. You could do that, but it's just going to take time.
Is there any specific muscle that will, so you said minimus will mimic sciatica.
Correct.
What muscle will direct pain?
Piriformis.
Piriformis is direct pain.
Yeah, that's why they call it piriformis syndrome. It will directly compress it.
Okay.
But hip tension is not the only reason people get sciatic pain. There can be facet dysfunction. There can be disc inflammation that causes it. Those are all on the table. Hamstring tension. It
I
passes
didn't
through your
realize that
hamstrings.
being stressed also cost, because I ended up in the hospital because of it. But it's because I was going through a lot.
Stress can do some crazy shit, man. Like stress will make hemorrhages go off. It'll make organs get dysfunctional. It'll make nerves get irritated. Like stress is a killer, man. I'll tell you, man. There is like, if you can get away from stress, please do, because it will destroy your body. It's crazy how much. So yeah, there's all sorts of things, man. All sorts of things. So, yep.
That's why I'm here.
There we go.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Diving into the lifestyle.
Yeah, a lot of people, man, come to this because they're tired of like whatever. Julie's a prime example. I mean, she always talks about her story, man. It was killing her, and it was. I remember when she came in as a student, she was a different person. She was a different person, and she has softened and really learned to love what she does, man. But it's not like it's not work. It's still work, but it's great when you can go and change people's lives.
When you love it, it's not work.
Yeah, man. I don't think that's true. I'd still rather be on the beach drinking a margarita.
You know what?
Listen, I hate that whole thing. Like, there are things I would rather do than come in, but I still love what I do, right? But I would a lot of places I'd still rather be. So don't fool yourself into thinking you're ever going to work a job that's the same as vacation, y'all. That just does not exist.
Unless you're an influencer.
Unless you're an influencer, but that still is probably one of the most lonely jobs, dude. Because your whole job is to keep a social distance. That's part of, like, because the thing is this: what makes popularity is this idea that you are something that no human is, right? It's this image you build, and when you get to know people, I don't care how popular, everybody's the same, dude. Everybody's got the same problems. Everyone's got the same issues. Everybody's the same. That will destroy you in the social media world. You have to be different. There's things about you. So like, you almost have to remove yourself from the populace. Like, a lot of social media like icons are very lonely, man. Very disconnected. They don't have a lot of friends because it helps them keep that image, man.
And they gotta be fake, really, a lot of times.
There's a lot of imaging going on behind the scenes. So like, you might think they're on vacation. It's work, dude, and it's not fun work. A lot of editing. It's not all it's cracked up to be, man. It really isn't.
What's an influencer?
Huh, I love that. Somebody who's on social media who have a lot of viewers, and so like they film themselves. There's a lot of ways you can.
Sometimes they make money.
For like promotion and marketing.
Promotion,
They'll open
marketing,
up a product
advertising.
And say,
Yeah.
it's the greatest. You should buy it. I really love it. And then they get like money from recommending it because they have all these
So the
followers.
social media people.
Yeah, and so they get followers. There's a number of ways. There are people who have followers because they just go on a camera and eat food. There are people who have followers because they don't camera and talk about their opinions. There are people who get on and just show off their body.
This one boy, he went. He's making money by letting rappers drive his Trackhawk and SRT, and he makes videos.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
My daughter's really into Minecraft. There's a streamer that he's got millions of followers. He just plays Minecraft. That's it.
It's a kid that's rich off YouTube by just filming
There's
himself
tons
playing
of
with
those guys,
toys.
the Minecraft guys.
Yeah, it's nutty, man. It's nutty. Like so once you got that viewership, that's where all the money's at, man.
Yeah.
Like you get paid. Like if you get paid $1,000 for every million views. So they're like the guy that my daughter watches. He'll put up a video and he'll get 60 or 70 million views in a month. And he's making $60,000 or $70,000 on that video. That's insanity, man. Insanity. All he's doing is playing video games.
It's a kid that makes money off of playing with toys.
Plays with toys.
And now
Another
he got
one.
Is it Ryan's
Now-
World? 'Cause
Ryan's.
we
Now he
watch
got
it all
his-
the time, and I'm like,
Now he
something
has his
else, please.
own toy line.
Yeah, killing it as a kid. Good for him, dude. I mean, that's awesome.
Right.
You know, but that's, you know, for every one of Ryan, there's 50,000
Mm-hmm.
waiting for their moment. They're not, you know, some of it's luck and timing. I mean, it's, anyway, we go on. But that's a social influencer. That's, yes. It's not, but a lot of the happiness in those worlds are not real, man. A lot of those people are like real
Suffering.
isolated, right? And they can get in front of a camera in their room, but you get them out in front of a real person and they can't.
I like some of them that are real about it.
Yeah.
Some of the
But are
influencers-
they?
Chiquibomo, no, it's Spanish.
Are
But
they?
anyway, and
Which
she's
one?
talking about
Which one?
her depression and anxiety. Chiquibomo, depression, anxiety, how she's overcome it, but there's moments that she can't handle it, and that's the reason she avoids certain people and certain crowds. And I'm like,
Yeah, I'm sure
oh,
there's some real people out there.
finally somebody says it, you know, expresses it.
It's-
Did you make a lot of money with this video?
Exactly.
What's that?
Yeah, you would be rich.
You will make.
I don't have a problem making money. I really don't.
No, that you will make.
No,
a lot
you
of
got
money.
money.
You did good.
You got
You see
money.
the
He's
video?
good.
I got
You
money.
too?
What?
Oh my God, you
He
be
sold
rich.
some prime.
Too much work.
He got a restaurant. He good.
You get somebody to do it for you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, maybe one day. Right now, I got enough on my plate. Maybe one day. Right now, it's fine. I mean, money, I live comfortably, man. I'm not, you know.
Exposure comes
Like,
with
you know,
it,
at
and
his school,
that's the
that's-
worst thing, is extra energy.
Think about it.
Yeah, that- so
Yeah, and I found you just can't force things, man. Like, you hear that all the time, but like, you know, it's again, it's more work than people think it is, right? People say that, but it's like, you know, getting an audience, it's just a lot of work that like,
Yeah,
I have.
Look at Brittany.
oh my
Girl.
God.
Yeah.
Poor
Poor
thing.
Poor girl's a wreck.
Poor thing.
I'm happy with y'all being my audience.
That's good enough, right?
That's good.
Okay, okay.
Brittany.
No pay.
I go back to that dream you had, and that statement of like, people who need to know me, and people who don't. That resonates with me. That's very much who I am, dude. I'm not like, I don't want to be in front of the world. I don't really want to be a figure.
And who
Not an
really wants
interest
to
of
be
mine.
friends with somebody who's always talking into their phone, like when you're hanging
Oh my
out?
God,
Like,
it's so annoying. Anyway, we go on. So, just to get back to it, we had the direct compression here. Then we had the one where we lifted up into abduction and we compressed. The last one is going to be along the iliac crest. And the reason this is important is because all the trigger points you guys will learn, they're all embedded on this iliac crest. You got to spend a little bit of time. This is a place a lot of people have issues, a lot of tension here. Little shift to thumbs, right? And you can either go direct compression along the iliac crest, or you can introduce some cross fiber frictions, okay? But you want to get some work along iliac crest. Whole lot of pain referrals that come from here.
I have another question. So
Yeah,
how do
what's
you
up?
determine- Because you talk about cross fiber friction.
Mhm.
How do you determine which is best for a location, whether it's cross fiber friction or compression?
That's a good question. So a lot of technique choice comes from feel.
Okay, so.
So yeah, so a lot of times if it feels tight, but the area feels clean, compressions are really good. But sometimes you go in and it's like, I don't even know if I'm feeling the muscle because everything's really kind of like, nothing's really fleshed out. That's when frictions are really good because they break everything in the area apart. A little more aggressive, but if I was to go in and it just felt like one giant blob of tissue, frictions are great at breaking things up. But if I can clearly feel the muscle and I can feel that there's tension in a specific fiber of the muscle, compression's great. But it still doesn't mean, I might still friction and get good results out of that, but that's generally the feel I go for when I choose a technique or the other. Crossfiber is also really good at stimulating muscle spindles. So for muscles I suspect are weak, crossfiber is also really effective. So you can go by that too. But yeah, generally a feel thing. Like I would say for Asher, he's way more of a compression than a friction guy because you can really feel specifically what you're working. Everything is very accessible. So when I hit that tension, I'm gonna get more out of compressing it than I am out of frictioning it. But friction still may be effective. From a feel perspective, that's gonna be better. Okay. So yeah, just holding these right here, man, that feels like. And if you're choosing a technique and they breathe like that, you're doing the right thing. That's consistent. If people take a deep breath in your work, they're integrating a moment and just like whatever you're doing, just hold it, man. Just hang with it. Okay? So you've got the option to compress, you've got the option to friction. Or you can try both, just see how it feels, okay? From there, we're gonna move, so piriformis, not the most ideal to treat sideline because it's situated obliquely. So we end up kind of getting that moment where we're pushing hips over. We are gonna stack knees together. We're gonna go to the other deep six, so your two gemellus, two obturator, 1 quadratus femoris. All of them are literally right here, y'all. They're smashed together right here. These are your deep 6 right here.
Okay.
That
okay.
except for piriformis, okay?
Right.
Yeah. So 1 thumb can really cover all 5 of them.
All 5
It's
of them?
not a big space. So when you're here, I will tell you this. This is going to get the most direct compression on them. So if you feel like they're super sensitive, prone's going to be better. This is a little more intense. But so you already have the sideline. We'll try it here first. Greater trochanter, ischial tuberosity. I'm going to go right in between with thumbs, and you should feel a little valley right there. I'm either going to press them into the ischium or into the greater trochanter. And like Asher's right side ischium is best, so we can press in.
Nice.
Now, I haven't heard edge, but I like this level of work right here. I'm just going to kind of play around with this level. If it gets to that max, you'll let me know edge. But we're getting some work done. So if I'm not at edge, but I'm at a good level, I can kind of, do a little bit of frictioning, a little bit of small gliding in here.
Can I tell, I've been telling the clients to tell me edge.
Yeah.
Whenever but they're not saying it. All of a sudden I hear this, or I hear feel a little movement. I'm like, is that edge or is that? And that's when they're like, yeah, that's edge.
Yeah, so people are really bad at speaking up for themselves. It's just how it is. Sometimes you have to trust what you see. Like, oh, they're not breathing, they're clenching their fists, they're tightening up. So you can go by that.
Some people like it.
Some people do. Some people have that mindset that like no pain, no gain.
No pain, no gain. Yeah.
Right? And sometimes that's it'll work, but if you can get them into that parasympathetic state, I think if you study neural patterns, they're going to be much more open to change when they're relaxed.
Okay.
When people tense up, how much are we changing when we're tense, right?
Nothing.
It's hard, right? It's hard. I mean, the tools we use are still effective no matter what. If someone's tightening up and cursing the gods, we can still get change, right?
Yeah.
But there's technically there's no need to do all that.
Okay.
We can still invite change without that. So that's kind of the principle we teach you. But I've trained with people. I've had work that was very intense. I've had work that I don't even remember. I like blacked out. It was still very, very good, but I don't think it was necessary.
Okay.
I've had work that have bruised me before.
Dang.
Cal Dietz, when I got work from Larry Phipps, Rolfing. Dude, I demoed in class for chest work. I got done and people were like, "What was that?" I'm like, I don't even remember. I was in Deep Space Nine the whole time. The only way I could get through it was so intense. But was my shoulder better? Yeah, a lot better. So, again, it's one of those things of like, that's also based on the fact that like I knew how to change. How many clients sitting on the table? How many do you think are adverse to change, that are just stuck? Like, we got to be honest, man. Some people don't know how to change, and so we got to start equipping them with tools. What tools are those? Breathing, relaxation, right? That's going to give people the basis of change, especially breathing, man. Breathing is the most key component to adaptability.
And there's so much evidence coming out how much dysfunctional breathing is associated with pain, with chronic pain especially.
Yep. Yeah, dude. When people fight change, they stop breathing. 100%. They're just like, they're stuck. So there is every reason in the world to invite those processes. But if they're breathing and they're with you, but it's freaking intense and they're like, maybe like kind of like fighting a little bit, but they're breathing and moving through it, there's probably more positive than negative change happening.
And that's the thing, because personally, I think about myself, it's like I hated change about 9-10 years ago, but now, little by little, I've fallen in love with it because all the changes that I've had the last 10 years are good changes. So.
Totally. It's the thing is, it's just a subjective conversation, right? At a certain point, pain becomes negative. What is that point? It's different person to person. Always different. Some people are so used to pain that the only way they're going to hear you is if you're at that level with them. They're not going to hear you, man, at all. So it's a long journey to get them to a place of change, man. One of the coolest stories, we had a lady here in clinic that like, she had a reputation for brutality. Like nobody could ever work deep enough on her. And finally she was like, none of this is working. So all the students were like, well, just go see David. So I did a consultation with her and I'm like, you have T4 syndrome, you need to go see a physical therapist. So she went to my guy Andrew and she got tremendously better. The crazy thing is she came back to clinic and all of a sudden she had an edge. And what you learn in those moments is that when people are to their max, they don't have room for any more sensory stimulus. So you can press as hard as you want with her, but she didn't register anything as anything. It was just an elbow in her back. But once she was finally better, she was like, oh, there's sensation there, and it's not positive. Let's back up a little bit. And it was like, okay. She's no longer this like maniac for pressure. It's just there was nothing coming in. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes people just are that way because they're so overloaded sensory-wise. There's just too much going on. So now the guy I referred her to, he is a brutal practitioner though. So I think she needed that. He's very heavy-handed.
Oh.
Yeah, like he's like, if they're not gritting their teeth, you're not doing good work kind of guy. He's a very pain kind of guy.
Already.
Yeah. Yeah. We've had lots of conversations about it. So I send people to him that are the right fit.
Okay.
People that want that can deal with that kind of work. Okay. So deep six, I've just been kind of working. So deep six, you want to get in there, compressions. There's not a lot of room to glide, right? When I say glide, it's kind of frictions. You can add some movement. So I can press in here and have Asher raise his knee up and drop it down. So he's adding some movement, so lateral rotation. He can lift his foot up, medial rotation. So you can invite some motions while you're in here, but other than that, it's a lot of direct compression. And Asher's taking it really well. This is a very sensitive area, just so you know. Don't be surprised if you just barely get in there and people are like, whoa. It'll be a very sensitive area. Okay. Now, I'm going to move him face down because we need to specify piriformis work, and then I'm going to show you variation. So if you don't mind, face down for me. So if you want to find piriformis, ankles up for me, Asher. Okay. So PSIS, which is just the bump where the pelvis meets the sacrum, and then coccyx, which is going to be right there. Right in between those is where piriformis is. I say that because it's on the anterior sacrum. It is buried underneath glute max, which is an extremely thick muscle. You are not getting to that muscle by doing that. You're going to have to press extremely deep in there, right? There are some people that say unless you have a dry needle, there's no way to get to it. I think with enough patience, you can get there with an elbow, but if you get someone with sciatic issues, you need to be pressing in here and edging them out for a while. This is a very, very, very deep muscle, okay? So the way you would do that is you'd find that location, you'd come in with an elbow, and you'd just work your way in, okay? Now, from this position, it's totally great, okay? I'm gonna explore just some static. So we get the edge there, and we just wait, breathe, get release, go deeper, right? Now, if I wanna add some different variability to that, I'm not gonna do that at edge, I'll wait till you get some release.
So this is piriformis.
It's piriformis. Yeah. So we treated the other deep six sideline. Piriformis prone is best, I think. You can get, it's like glute max, you can just get direct pressure in there. And it's just so deep, it's just much easier from here.
Piriformis contributes to sciatic.
Yes, so the sciatic nerve passes underneath piriformis, unless you're the unfortunate, I think 4% where it passes through the belly. So when it tightens, it can compress it against the sciatic, into the sciatic notch, so you get sciatic irritation.
And what bony landmarks are you using to determine where that is?
So
like, how do you know? Because it's kind of a
PSIS,
okay.
coccyx, it's going to be in between those two. That's going to be where piriformis is on the sacrum, out to the greater trochanter.
Okay.
So if you want to see a visual of it, this model is actually really sweet. If I can lay that comfortably on Asher. All right. So here's lateral glutes that we just did. Medius is cut, minimus is deep. There's piriformis, right? So PSIS to coccyx, it's going to be right in between. But it's deep. I mean, glute max is nowhere on this model at all. It's completely removed, but it would be sitting thickly on top.
You said the one on top is gluteus medius and the bottom is minimus?
For this one, yeah, medius
Okay.
is on top and they've cut it, and there's
Okay.
minimus underneath.
Okay.
Yep, so medius, minimus. Glute max would be covering right here.
Mhm.
So here's your deep six that we treated sideline right here.
Mhm.
There's piriformis. It's like anterior sacrum, so it's like it is in there. There's a sciatic nerve right there.
What's the blue?
That is your sacrotuberous ligament and your long dorsal ligament. Okay, so when that shortens and presses down, it will press that sciatic nerve into the ischial ramus right there. And so you get sciatica down the leg. So you want to take Loosen that muscle, take pressure off the sciatic nerve. But again, ultimately the sciatic nerve is coming from these branches in the lumbosacral junction. So issues in the spine will also irritate the nerve. Could be one or the other. So they might need body work, they might need a facet adjustment, they might need joint mobilization, they might need some strength weakness work around their spine. There could be a lot of things. They could need time because their disc is inflamed. I mean, that happens. There's all sorts of things that can happen that can cause sciatica.
So sciatica,
And didn't you
that nerve doesn't just stay here, it runs.
It does
correct?
all the way down, yep, and then it branches off in the lower leg into
On the
other
lower,
nerves.
okay.
Yeah.
And didn't you say there was a hamstring muscle that somehow
Well,
affected?
as it comes out of the hip, it passes in between. You remember that medial septum we worked? If
Yeah.
you go deep enough through that medial septum, guess what you find?
So do you
Sciatic nerve.
ever do what we did to help alleviate pain there?
Yes, so
too?
I do direct neural manipulation. I will directly manipulate a nerve, and I'll do it side lying between the hamstrings. That's one way that I'll manipulate a sciatic nerve, is through there. I'll do some in the hip as well.
Do we
But that's-
learn that from you later on, or?
You do not. Neural manipulation is not taught here. You'd have to train with Brawl Institute. They're the big ones.
Okay.
Unless you just find a course like off a beaten path.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a whole different line of work, the neural stuff. But you can learn it. You can practice it, which is really cool. It's fun stuff.
Is that different?
I have, if you ever want to look at it, I have my manual here. If you just want to peek at it and see, it's very light work though. That's the crazy thing is like, it's very like working because you're working in a water balloon, and nerves move very easily because they want to avoid pressure. So when you're going in, it's a lot of like really light feeling around for like these spaghetti noodles, and then just manipulating them, you know, oscillating pressure, fascial stretching along the neurolema. It's very finesse work, but it's effective.
Yeah.
All right, so we got piriformis. We can drop back down and repeat the deep six work, the rest of the deep six. For all of these, if you don't want to keep them statically here, you can do positional release, which is just where you reposition the hip. Let's say they're super, super tight in the hip, they've got sciatic issues, they really can't immediately rotate, right? So these lateral rotators are super tight. So you just position them, say that's max range, I position Asher here, then I go in and do my compressions, get some releases, and then start to slowly open the hip up, okay? It's a really good way to do it. You can press and move, that's good too, but like holding him in position and releasing it can be very effective, okay? But this is just repeat work. You've already done the sideline. I want you to go back in prone and retry this, okay? And then there's one supine variation. If you don't mind flipping for me, Ashley. So that technique where you lifted the leg up and compressed, if you have a hard time with that, right? And you're gonna get some people that might have extremely heavy legs, right? You get a 350-pound lineman, legs are very heavy, that's a lot of work. You got an 8-hour day, you don't wanna sit there and hold the leg up, right? So what you can do is you can just hang it off the table like this. So now you're in that abducted position. You have to get lower, and then I can still come in and treat lateral glutes from here, right? So if you go back to when I was sidelined, this is the same thing, but I'm scooping in and down towards the top of that trochanter. So it's still this glute minimus work, right? You remember where I lifted the leg up? This is the same thing, just done supine, okay? This is a lot easier on my body in terms of weight. It's a lot harder in terms of position. Getting pressure here is more difficult than if I have them sidelined with an elbow. It's trading one for the other, okay?
What could you use besides your thumb for?
Good question. I could use fingertips
Sorry.
and come in. Technically, I could scoop with an elbow and work with that. But you end up using a lot of shoulder from here. It's really hard to get your body weight behind it from here. I think Amanda also showed if you go face down, you can do the same thing prone as well. It's the same idea, right? You can drop the leg off and then you can just come in with an elbow. Okay. But you just want to make sure supine and prone that you're very conscious of being lateral. These are lateral glutes. So they're positioned right under you when they're sidelined, but when they go face down, you have to come to the side to get lateral glutes. You're not going to get them back here. Okay, this is glute max. This is medius and minimus right here. Okay? Fair enough? That's it. That's the whole demo. Pretty straightforward.